Yeah, I know I talked about Marjorie Taylor Greene and her deciding that she's gonna step away as of January 5th, and I had some commentary on it, but I'm not letting her get away scot-free, and neither is Marjorie Taylor Greene's stepping away, getting her scot-free off of AOC and Jasmine Crockett's lips to give her the business, because the fact is, right after Donald Trump turned on her, she decided, now, you know what? I'm going to get out of here. And while Republicans are acting like everything is normal with this dude, AOC issued what felt like a literal state of Trump address because of his disturbing public comments about having people hung, executed, enemies of the state, and his obvious cognitive decline. And we got to be beautifully honest about it, because it's not just getting scary, it absolutely is. Accountability is overdue. And unfortunately, it's not looking like many of these Republicans are here to hold his feet to the fire. And they're either going to be like Marjorie Taylor Greene and decide that they're going to just not run again, they're going to resign, or they're just going to stay there and let him just drive the country into a place of what he called a lot of other nations being a shithole country. So let's get into it. What's up? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the politics and BS. So here's the deal, guys. MTG, she had all the smoke for Jasmine Crockett, AOC, other women of color in Congress, you name it. She pretty much built her whole political persona on being loud, the aggressive attacks, also the paranoia, a lot of the things that people felt were just weird, made up, situations when it comes to lasers and all kinds of crazy stuff that she was talking about. But the minute 45/47 publicly turned on her for a good reason, not his reasons being good, but because she decided to stand for something good, suddenly she's quitting. She's not going to run again. And Jasmine Crockett and AOC, they wasted zero time pointing out the hypocrisy. Jasmine Crockett said exactly what many people have been thinking. She loves to fight, but only when she thinks 45/47 is there cheering her on. When she becomes the opponent and she loses his approval, then she's out. So let's get into it.
Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia stunned Washington once again this week. She announced that she's going to resign from Congress on January 5th.
I'm going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest, as I always have, and I look forward to a new path ahead. I'll be resigning from office, with my last day being January 5th, 2026, and I look forward to seeing many of you again sometime in the future.
Here to discuss is one of Greene's biggest adversaries in Congress, Democratic Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Congresswoman, thanks so much for joining us. I want to start with the shocking announcement from Congresswoman Greene. What went through your mind when you first heard she was going to resign on January 5th?
You know what? Honestly, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. You're on the other side of the president for 1 week and you can't take the heat. Imagine what it is to sit in my shoes, to not only be on the opposite side of him, but to have people like her who are constantly fanning the flames of hate. And imagine what those threats look like when you literally are someone like me. But at the end of the day, I know that I serve the people of Texas 30. And so my job isn't to be there and necessarily do whatever is going to make the president not be on my back, but instead is to focus on making sure that I can push forward with policies that are positive for Texas 30.
Here's an excerpt from her resignation video. Take a listen.
Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the president of the United States, whom I fought for.
So she seems to be suggesting that it is their disagreement over the release of the Epstein files that is causing this shocking political breakup. What's your response to that?
I mean, listen, he's upset with Thomas Massey, and so he's gone after him. He's upset with Boebert. He's upset with any Republican that actually signed the discharge petition. But somehow they were able to weather the storm. So, this really speaks to the fact that Marjorie, who has been an instigator of a lot of this hate that we see as it relates to the MAGA movement, it's just interesting that I don't know if she really fully understood how bad she was making it for other people. And now that they're doing it to her, I just got to say, well, why is it that everyone else is able to stand and you can't?
And let's just think about that for a moment. The fact that the same people that she was siding with, now that they've turned on her, she's getting violent, uh, just, and I'm sitting here like, I'm not baffled, but it really is taking the words out of my mouth to just sit and think about this. Is like, why would you want to continue to be in a party? I'm not saying that she has to come out and publicly declare herself a Democrat, right? But just think about it. A couple of months ago, when what happened to CK happened to CK in the public, on camera, right? And she was one of the people that was saying the Democrats, they need to own this. It's because of them and their violent rhetoric. But the moment she decides to stand up for something that is supposed to be a good thing, standing up for victims, right? And the president turns on her. Think about this. The president turns on her because of that. And now all of those people that are still siding with the president are now coming for her with violent threats. Think about that. And these are the people that you stand up for and you champion and you represent. How crazy is that? And it's just been 5 minutes and now you're on the other side of it and you're tucking tail and running away. But there are people who have been dealing with this type of rhetoric and dangerous threats for years.
The House Oversight Committee, which you are a member of, said Friday night that your committee is expanding its investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Do you have any idea what this expanded investigation might include?
I do not at this point in time. I'll say leadership is keeping it under wraps to make sure that we can hopefully not have many more obstacles. If you'll remember, we decided that we were going to put out a subpoena for Ghislaine Maxwell. And the next thing you know, the president's henchman showed up to her cell. And the next thing you know, we didn't have our sit down talk with her, which I imagine would have gone a little differently if we had. So we're keeping that tight-lipped for now.
And Ghislaine is in a minimum security prison right now. She's got access to all of the great amenities a prisoner in a minimum security prison like the one she is right now has. Getting, she can do arts and crafts, have a puppy, all of these other ridiculous things. And she was convicted for being someone that was involved in defiling children. Think about that. And it's so disturbing and it's so disgusting. And after meeting with 45/47's personal attorney, now she had that opportunity. Do you really believe that if she's subpoenaed at this point, she's going to turn on him and say that he did anything wrong? When it's crazy that it's like, we can't just assume it. And I know for the sake of the law, you can't assume, but the general public, we can assume. And we see him in images and video with Ghislaine Maxwell. When he was president the first time and she was on trial, he was asked about her and he said, I wish her well. But we are in present time and he's talking about having representatives and senators executed because they're telling people in the military that you do not have to obey orders that are against the law. Then you had AOC. She stepped in with her thoughts, and I want to share some other thoughts with you guys too. But I'm going to show this to you guys here, and this is just her written statement. And she says she's carefully timing her departure just 1 to 2 days after her pension kicks in. and after making millions of dollars insider trading stocks for weapons manufacturers and others while in office. She is saying a lot, but her actions have not backed up the rhetoric. For all her talk, and that's talk, she's still voting with them to gut health care and advance self-dealing corruption schemes. And I agree, because it's like, while the statement that she had written up for her, she probably used Chat GPT or something to write up the statement for her, that she read, that she sat there in front of the camera to to speak. She was reading it. I mean, you could tell from her eyes. But anyway, she said, one of the things she said that caught my ears, she's going to continue living her best life. What about the people you represent? What about the people of this nation who are not able to live their best life because people like you and others have not been doing everything that you can and putting in your all for the people to be able to live their best lives, right? So the hypocrisy is unreal. And here we have another breakdown about her real motives and intentions.
Fall for the deceit of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has not had some change in character or understanding of the political system. She is the worst, most corrupt part of the political system. Let me give you some numbers. Joe Biden was a senator for decades. He was a vice president. He was the president. At age 80, he was worth roughly $15 to $20 million, somewhere in there, based on his tax returns. The most powerful man on the planet for a while. Marjorie Taylor Greene was just a House rep. There's hundreds of them. When she entered Congress in 2021, she had $700,000 to her name. Now she has $25 million. In 4 years, she made $25 million. You will not see that anywhere else in the House of Representatives. And what did she do? Did she pass any legislation? Did she offer policy changes? She didn't do anything. From the start, remember, January 6th, she wasn't even sworn in during the attack on the Capitol. She was front and center. During 4 years of the Biden administration, she fought tooth and nail against everything Biden tried to do, undercutting deficit reduction, undercutting immigration law, undercutting economic policies, undercutting everything, and being face forward for Trump, Trump's biggest supporter, as he became a convicted felon liable for sexual assault. He had a woman in Congress defending him. She served a purpose. Now that her purpose is done and Trump's in office, she's not interested. She can't even be bothered to finish a 2-year term that she ran for. She was paid to help Trump. That task is done. They've given her the avenue to leave, smiling with a good face and saying, oh, I'm against Epstein. Remember, Trump was always tied to Epstein. She has been a congresswoman for 4 years. She already knew what was in the Epstein files. She didn't just learn anything. Do not fall for Marjorie Taylor Greene's complete, utter, corrupt deceit.
Wow. So if that doesn't break it down, I don't know what else does. So her sitting there looking, as barefaced as she can, making that statement, talking about the victims and all of that. Multiple things can be true at the same time. But it just kind of seems like it's it's kind of convenient, especially when the man that she's been defending all of this time, like she said, she fought for the president. She said it out of her own mouth. She fought for the president, not fighting for the nation, not fighting for the people that she represented. She fought for him. He already had multiple felony convictions, other charges, found liable for sexual assault, and she was still defending him and fighting against the Biden administration. So yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of fingers that can be pointed. And so yeah, just because she's stepping down and talking about the Epstein victims, let us not forget all of the other things that she should be called out for. And if you haven't heard about his calls for Democratic lawmakers to be found liable for treason and seditious behavior, and pretty much they should be hung, their lives should be taken, none of this should be a shock or surprise, because he had his followers screaming and yelling, "Hang Mike Pence," on January 6, 2021. He's never apologized for it. He pretty much was okaying it and saying, well, hey, these people were upset. This stuff is, every time I sit and consider all of the things that are going on, I always replace it with, if it were Barack Obama, if it were Joe Biden, hell, even if it were George Bush, they would not allow these things to happen. What is it about this man that they will allow all of this behavior to continue and they just dismiss it or act like there's nothing to see? It's not a big deal. This is crazy. So let's get into the statement that she made.
The president's remarks are, I think, indicate a level of instability. It's not just shocking, it's not just offensive, it's bizarre, it is erratic, it's volatile. And I think it indicates a mental state that we should all be questioning right now, whether that's emotional, mental, what have you. It is not normal to make these accusations. It is not normal to invoke these kinds of threats of violence. And it's also not normal to also dramatically misquote, as Carolyn Leavitt was doing, what these members of Congress said. They made a very clear message to U.S. service members, which is that you do not have to obey an illegal order. And I think that's an important message to reiterate because this administration seems to be increasingly trying to go down that path.
And that's it. That's all. She talked about the increasingly violent rhetoric. He literally just met with the crown prince who was accused of having a Saudi reporter executed. Barbaric. And he excused it and said, well, the man you're talking about, he wasn't really liked. Are you freaking kidding me? His obsession with these types of talking points, executions, they should have this happen to them, they should have this happen to them, threats toward political opponents, and the mental decline, which his niece, Mary Trump, and his nephew both said that his father definitely has dementia and he's expressing all of the signs of having it too. And the fact that the majority of the GOP is pretending that this is not happening, pretending not to notice. So AOC, she put into words what millions of people are thinking, but afraid to say it. And it's scary. So that's the story, guys. 45/47 is spiraling publicly every moment. MTG, she's running for cover. And women like Jasmine Crockett and AOC, they're standing their ground, standing on business, and telling the truth. So I want to know what you guys think about it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.